Welcome to Layer of the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, another in my series of milestone moments. These are moments in a band's career where everything comes together. It usually features the classic lineup of the band, and maybe it's a time when their concept all comes together into fruition. So the band that I picked for today is Queensryche and their 1988 classic Operation Mindcrime. Some would say that this is the greatest heavy metal concept album of all time, and I wouldn't be one to argue with them. This is a great album. Everything comes together for Queensryche at this point. This was their fourth release, if you count their first self-titled EP, which came out in '83, had the song Queen of the Reich on it. 1984's Warning had the song Take on the Flame. 1986 Rage for Order had Gonna Get Close to You. So everything was building for Queensryche. They came raging out onto the scene with that first EP, and they just arrived strong. It did not take them long to get their name out there, but it all built up to what many would consider to be their masterpiece, Operation Mindcrime. Operation Mindcrime is a concept album. It's about a drug addict who is disillusioned with society and government. He falls under the spell and becomes brainwashed by a character named Dr. X, who creates him into an assassin. And in the process of all this, we're introduced to some other characters like Sister Mary, who was a former prostitute, now a nun, and the priest that she's having a relationship with. Well, eventually Dr. X tells the main character to assassinate Mary and the priest, but he has feelings for Sister Mary, so he can't do it. So everything goes haywire, with the whole album ending in the climactic I Don't Believe in Love song, one of the best songs on the record. Now, this album from top to bottom, all the songs are great on it. It features Jeff Tate on vocals, arguably one of the greatest metal vocalists of all time, certainly in the top 10, and this is maybe one of his best performances. Chris DeGarmo and Michael Wilton on guitar, Eddie Jackson on bass, and Scott Rockenfield on drums. The production on this album is just awesome. It sounds great. It was produced by Peter Collins. Everything is in check. The guitars sound metallic and right there in the mix. The drums sound great. Maybe the snare drum is a little bit much at times, but it's okay. It works. The bass sounds great. You can hear everything that the bass is playing. Jeff Tate sounds fantastic. It's an album with a lot of nuances and overdubs and headphone things going on, spoken word parts in between some of the songs to help move the plot along. And again, the production, you can put headphones on and there's keyboards that come in and out and add textures to it that help sort of get you in the mindset of this whole album. And it really is a journey from beginning to end. And the great thing about it is that sometimes in concept albums, you struggle to understand, all right, what is going on here, or the songs are too dependent on whatever the theme is of the album, and they don't stand out enough on their own. That's not the case on this album. You can follow it from top to bottom and totally immerse yourself in the storyline, but there's a lot of just great songs on this album that stand out completely on their own, like Revolution Calling, one of the early songs in the album. The Mission, this mid-tempo, awesome kind of song with the character telling his story about what he needs to do. Sweet Sister Mary is awesome. It's this sort of orchestrated almost, lots of synthesizer and string sounds featuring the Sister Mary character. It's got a great female vocalist in on that. Electric Requiem is this sort of dark number, and maybe the biggest hit off this album, I Don't Believe in Love. It's just fantastic, and you can listen to all these on their own and still enjoy it. You don't even need to know that it's a concept album. Just the songs in and of themselves individually are great. It also doesn't feel like there's too much incidental things that don't make any sense. The album moves quickly. It's not overly long. I didn't time it, but I don't think it's much more, probably in the 40 to 45 minute range. It's a single album, so it doesn't feel like it drags on too long. I guess the closest comparison you might be able to make to it would be Pink Floyd's The Wall. I would say it's not as weighed down as The Wall. It moves a little bit quicker. It's a little bit easier to jump into it. The storyline itself is a little bit more concise and focused, whereas The Wall is just more of a bunch of different feels to it. This is a little bit more, the storyline is a little bit more streamlined and straightforward. So in my opinion, it's just an awesome album, and it kicked off maybe the whole progressive metal. Although there were other bands doing this at this time, Queensryche is one of the early bands to sort of vanguard this and lead this. And what I love about it is it's progressive metal, but not in an overly guys playing a million miles an hour and chopsy long songs with it feels like people are showing off. It's not about that at all. Everything feels in place on here. Everything feels deliberate. Nothing feels overindulgent or like they're just filling up space. The guitar solos, for instance, are all just great. They feel really thought out. They're really melodic. They add to the songs. The interplay between the two guitars, there's guitar harmonies that come in and out. Again, the use of keyboards, it's not over the top, but it comes in at the right times to add atmosphere to the songs. So it's just an absolutely fantastic album. Jeff Tate sounds amazing. He has layered vocals in certain spots. The way he delivers the songs, it doesn't feel too wordy or anything. Again, another complaint about concept albums. Sometimes it feels like they're trying to force words in to move the plot along. That isn't the case at all here. So all the songs are very catchy. Jeff Tate delivers fantastically. The drumming is great. The bass is really great. He has a unique bass sound that he doesn't overplay, but he adds to the songs when needed. So it's just an amazing album and one of the greatest metal albums of all time. It would certainly probably land in most people's top 20 list, maybe if not in their top 10. After this, Queensryche would go on to release their next album would be a big hit for them. And they would have Empire. I forgot the name of it for a second. Their next album would be Empire, and it would be a big commercial hit for them. It had the song Silent Lucidity on it, which got tons of radio airplay, tons of MTV play, a song that I probably don't really need to ever hear again, and it really shows off their Pink Floyd influence, which you do hear on this record. There are some moments, especially leading into, I think it's Electric Requiem, where there's like this distant, somebody screaming and his boom, 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 pulsing like keyboard, this sound that really reminds me of some moments on The Wall. But on Empire, I think that Pink Floyd thing comes out a lot more in the song Silent Lucidity. But there's a lot of great songs on Empire. I love the title track Empire. I love the song Jet City Woman. Those are great. But after Empire, I would lose it with Queensryche. For me, in my opinion, they started going downhill. And Promised Land, I like that album, but it's a step down for me. And then after that, I would really lose track of them. Jeff Tate would leave. They would have a new singer come in, and they would sort of revitalize themselves a little bit. In the last couple Queensryche albums, I do like them, but it's just not the same for me. When Chris DeGarmo, the guitar player, left the band, I think he was a key songwriter, and without him in the band, it just maybe missed something in the songwriting department. So they never really, for me, got back to this masterpiece, Operation Mindcrime. Empire was a little too slick and polished for me, although I did like it. They did revisit this concept with an Operation Mindcrime 2, and in my opinion, it was just a total disappointment. I've tried to listen to it. I can't get anything out of it. This is the problem when you release a classic album like this and people live with it for so many years. You either really got to release an amazing record. Anything short of absolutely amazing is just going to seem like a step down and pale in comparison to the original. And unfortunately, Operation Mindcrime 2 just does not live up to to Operation Mindcrime 1. So just a fantastic record, a great progressive metal band, Queensryche leading the way with that sound. So fantastic. If you haven't listened to it in a while, give it another listen. I don't need to tell you these things. Most metalheads love this record. So, okay, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you hit subscribe and like. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.